You know, when you're standing in front of a masterpiece, you see the colors, right? The brushstrokes, the emotion. But what if I told you one of the most critical decisions the artist made is something you can't even see? Today, we're diving into that hidden foundation of art, the actual surface the artist chose to paint on. So really think about it. What's actually holding that centuries-old oil painting together? I mean, it's not just the fancy frame or the museum wall. No. It's a choice, a crucial choice that dictates how the art was made, how it traveled, and, whether it even survived to this day. So, we're going to metaphorically peel back the layers of paint and look right at the support itself. Because whether it's wood or canvas, that foundation isn't just a passive background. It's an active partner in the painting's entire life, influencing everything from its texture to its very survival. All right, let's kick things off way back in the Middle Ages. This was an era where one material absolutely reigned supreme as the foundation for art, and that was the wood panel. We're talking solid, revered, and totally built to last.
Back then, especially for really important sacred art, think about those massive altarpieces or those complex multi-panel paintings called polyptychs. Wood was pretty much the only game in town. It just had this weight, this permanence that really fit the subject matter. And the artists, well, they were the painters, but the people prepping their surfaces were master carpenters.
And this wasn't just any old plank of wood, not at all. To create these huge surfaces, carpenters had to join multiple boards together with insane precision. They used these really clever techniques, like internal dowels called ceviche, and these beautiful butterfly-shaped keys known as farfalle, to lock everything together and prevent it from splitting apart. Just incredible craftsmanship. So here you have the essential trade-off with wood. On the one hand, these panels were fantastically stable, and many have survived for centuries, which is just amazing. But on the flip side, they were incredibly heavy, a total pain to move. And they had their own set of enemies, like wood-boring insects and a nasty habit of warping if the humidity wasn't perfect. So, in a way, their greatest strength, that solidness, was also their biggest limitation. But things were about to change. Big time. As we head into the modern era, a brand new material arrives on the scene, and it is a complete game changer. This wasn't just an evolution, folks. It was a revolution. You can really see that massive shift right here. For hundreds of years, wood was just the standard. It's how things were done. But then stretch canvas arrives. And it starts slow, but pretty soon it's an almost total takeover that completely changed how art was made, sold, and even seen. So, why the big switch? Honestly, it all came down to practicality. Canvas was so much lighter than wood. It was cheaper. It could be rolled up and shipped easily to patrons in other cities, even other countries. And maybe the biggest deal of all, it allowed artists to dream bigger, creating massive works that would have been physically impossible with heavy wood panels.
This was nothing short of liberating for artists. All of a sudden, those physical limits were just gone. The art world became way more connected, and the scale of artistic ambition could finally expand like never before.
And that whole revolution brings us right up to the present day. Now, when an artist walks into a supply store, they're facing a key decision with some deep historical roots: which type of canvas to use. The two main contenders are linen and cotton. Okay, so let's break down this showdown. In one corner, you've got linen, made from flax fibers. It's got superior strength, it's naturally resistant to moisture, and it has this wonderful, irregular surface texture, what artists call dent or tooth, that just grips the paint beautifully. In the other corner, you have cotton. It's softer, it's easier to stretch, it's more uniform, and, this is a big one, it's much more affordable.
You can basically think of cotton as the reliable workhorse of the art world. It's perfect for students, for practice, for just sketching out ideas, or for artists who need to create really large works without completely breaking the bank. It gets the job done, and it does it well.
But when an artist is creating a work they intend to last for generations, a true masterpiece, that's when they often turn to linen. Its archival quality, its incredible strength, and that unique way it interacts with the paint make it the professional's choice for work where longevity and surface quality are absolutely top priority. So, the artist makes their choice. But what happens next? What happens over 50, 100, or even 500 years? Let's take a look at how these supports interact with the paint and endure the test of time. One common issue is something called sinking, or in Italian, affondamento del colore.
This is what happens when the support is maybe a little too absorbent, or the artist used too much solvent, and the oil binder from the paint gets sucked down into the canvas. It leaves the pigment on the surface looking dull, matte, and kind of lifeless.
You know, over a long life, a canvas painting goes through a pretty predictable cycle. It naturally loses tension and starts to sag. This can cause the now brittle paint film to crack and lift away. For centuries, the standard fix was a process called reintellatura, or relining, where a new canvas was essentially ironed on and glued to the back of the original. But this fix had a pretty serious consequence.
All that heat and pressure from relining, well, while it did stabilize the painting, it often completely flattened the rich, three-dimensional texture of the artist's original brushstrokes. So in an attempt to preserve the image, the very hand of the artist, their physical touch, could be unintentionally erased. It's a tragic irony of art conservation, really.
So we've journeyed from ancient wood panels to modern canvases, from the artist's studio all the way to the restorer's lab, and it all comes back to a single, fundamental choice.
And the key takeaway here is this: the support is never just a neutral background. It's an active participant. It affects the texture, the longevity, and the very spirit of the work. That first decision an artist makes, what to paint on, echoes for centuries.
Which leaves you with a question to think about the next time you're in a gallery. As you look at the cracking paint on an ancient panel or the fine weave of a canvas, ask yourself, is that surface just where the painting began, or is it, in some essential way, part of its soul?